So I almost bought Makolo, and clearly I didn't, and I'm very glad that I didn't. Let's talk about it. Hey y'all, this is Danny with DD Fitness, and this is part 2 of my 3-part series of shopping on Alibaba. And apparently this has been a very popular demand for the video review for this. That I apologize, it took me a little bit longer to get this out. And also wasn't aware that there was so many people actually really interested in this piece of equipment. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just get right into it. If you missed my first part on shopping with Alibaba, I'll put the link in the descriptions. Also, it'll be at the end of this video, so that way if you want to check out the first purchase that I made and also how to navigate through Alibaba. Check out that other video. I don't go into a lot of details about how to shop with Alibaba. That's not what these videos are about. It is about the purchases that I actually made through them. But I will say that this piece of equipment came from a different company, from the Hyper. So all 3 pieces that I bought were from 3 different companies. Now with this particular part, this piece of equipment, this is, I don't know, one of the best pieces of equipment I have in this gym. I mean, I have a lot of stuff in here, and I think my favorite purchase from Alibaba was the Hyper, but I am growing to love this row machine to be my favorite in the actual gym. So this is a 45-degree linear row from Alibaba. Now, when you go on there, there's so many different type of models that can do a 2-in-1. So this is also not just a seated row, linear row. It is also a chest supported row. So it does come in 2 different configurations to be able to do that. And this thing has a lot of configurations that you can put on here. So for the seat adjustment, there's 9 different seat adjustments for the angle of the bar. For the seat itself, for when you're doing chest supported rows, there's 7 different positions. You have a articulating handle for the crossbar. It has 8 different settings that you can set for the range of the handles. The rotations come with 16 different angles that you can put this in. And for the platform, it is also adjustable with 3 different settings. So this thing comes loaded with a lot of different options that you can set for it. And with Makolo, which is the biggest popular linear row machine out there for the home gym, it doesn't even compare. And I'm not gonna knock Makolo. They have a home budget version of this. This is a commercial grade piece of equipment that you would see in a gym. So it's not even on the same category with Makolo. So I'm not knocking what Makolo has and offer to the market. But I can definitely say that it is extremely, extremely limited based on what this can do. So let's go ahead and deep dive a little bit more into how this is constructed, the different angles, positions, and all that good stuff. And I'll go into a little bit more details about the specs. Luckily for this, I have a little bit more details as far as the weight capacity and all that good stuff from my previous video. As I mentioned, unless you can get that information from the manufacturers, it's going to be hard to know what the actual specs is on it. So let's go ahead and deep dive a little bit more into it. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a 2-in-1 linear row machine. So not only can you do seated rows, you can also do chest supported rows. So with the seated row, even though you can put this in different angles, the main ones you're going to probably use is like the first 1 or 2, maybe 3 angles for the seated rows to get yourself in a nice good position. So that way, not only can you adjust the angle of where your rows are coming in when you roll in, but also just to make sure that you're comfortable as you're seated on here. And as I mentioned, it does also come with a 3-foot platform position. And I really like that it actually does have that, because it will allow you to set yourself up to feel very comfortable on here. I'm 5'10", and even with the springs that's on there, I can get very good range of motion on there. And as I come up, you can already see that it's already off the springs and a nice good range for the rows. Now, the good thing about this, when I had got this, I actually thought about leaving the springs off, but I decided to keep them on, and I'm actually glad that I did because this thing has a really good range, as I mentioned earlier. So even with me being 5'10", I can still get it off the ground. And as I get fatigued, I still have that little bit of range before it hits the bottom of it. My wife, when she uses it, she's, I believe, about 5'5", and she's also gets some really good range on it. And as I mentioned, you can always adjust the platform and also adjust the seat, so that way you make sure that you get a nice, good range of motion out of it. All right, so I did mention that it does have 8 different positions that you can set this up on, and that's really just nice because it's not gonna limit you to any position that you wanna have to target your back, and you just have a nice way to be able to hit anywhere that you want to and make those quick adjustments as needed. So you can see how easy it is to adjust between different angles. Now there is UHMW lining in here, so it will protect it as it slides back and across. I do find that it kind of sticks a little bit on here, so I spray some silicone spray on here just to make it be able to smooth or glide across a lot easier. But these things work really, really good once they get that silicone in there to be able to slide a little bit through there easier. When I got it, it was a little rough to get it in there. So now for the handles, as I mentioned, there is 16 different angle positions on here. There's no numbering for the positions on there, unfortunately, but it's really easy to tell when you're aligned for the handles. So whether or not you really need them, it's user preference on that. But I will say for up here, they do have laser etch on the top of here, so that way you know what position you're on. And as I mentioned on the back for the seat, you have a 9 different angle position that you can set this up for. And those are laser etched on there, but the adjustments for when you do the chest supported for the 7 does not have one on there. So they kind of did at least half and half, where some of it does have it, but some of it doesn't. I would have liked to have seen everything just have numbers on it, since this is a commercial grade piece of equipment. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you how it looks when you set it up for the chest support row. And it's just as easy as doing that pull pin, adjusting this to the front. And then I can set myself up for whatever angle that I have. And this does have a platform on the back where you can put your feet either down here when you set yourself up for rows, kind of like doing landmines in a ways, or you can set yourself up on the platform in the back, keep yourself in a straight alignment as you do those rows. And this thing just feels really good. Let me get on the same number. And the padding gives you a lot of good cushioning without it being too hard on your chest. And it's just soft enough to be able to contour to your chest, so that way it feels comfortable on there. Now the material on here is actually not that bad. It's like slick and grippy at the same time. Like if you sit on it with clothes, it feels like it's good on your clothes, but when you ride your hand across it, it feels pretty slick, so it's kind of in between. But I've never had any problems with it as far as using it. And when I'm in a seated row position, I don't feel like I'm sliding around on it. So it does grip when you have clothes on, and it feels really good on there. And as I said, the padding is firm and soft at the same time, so that way it contours to your chest when you're doing it, so that way it doesn't hurt your chest. So now as far as this part down here where the angle position is on here, there's some wobble. It's not as high of a tolerance as I would have liked. And it could be maybe I just didn't tighten it up down at the bottom, but it's going to still have some wobble in it. But when you're on it and you're pulling, there's no movement, because once you're down on it, it's nice and solid and you don't feel any kind of shaking on there. But I would have liked to have that a little bit more better tolerance on there. Okay, now as I mentioned, the seat does come with 7 different angle positions for the chest rest. And it also has a little hydraulic piston right here to support from when you're moving it. I mean, it doesn't even need this, but this was a nice little added feature. So that way when you're pushing down on it, it doesn't just drop down or flop up. It controls it, just because the seat for this part right here is pretty heavy. And so they make sure to give you support, so that way it just falls right over into place. And then you got your 7 different angle positions along with your 9 different angle positions down there. So that way you just have so many different ranges of how you want to do your rows. I mean, you can really set yourself up very comfortable on here for doing the chest supported rows. And it's not limited to just one or two different positions. Now, another good thing about this is not only is this commercial grade, it does also provide band assistance. So it does have a band pin up here on both sides and then down there at the bottom on the row. So that way, if you need assistance on the low end pulling up before you get into the higher part of the pool, you can put bands on there to get that assistance on there for that. Now it does also have weight storage that you can put down here. I'm not sure the exact storage weight on here. I believe the numbers that I have that I'll show you in just a moment, I believe it's for full capacity, but I'm not 100% sure. But I was told that the handles can handle up to 400 kilograms of weight. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I think that's 400 kilograms total. But based off what I was told, it does have a 400 kilogram capacity on there. Now, as far as user capacity, it is 440 pounds, so it does give you a nice robust number to feel secure on here for anybody that's 440 pounds. So this thing is very good commercial grade. It's not the tube, the 3x3 tubing like my other pizza machine. This is more like commercial gym style tubings, but it is probably most likely 11 gauge. I mean, this thing is just absolutely solid from top to bottom. I mean, there's not a weak point as far as the frame itself. Now, there is a couple of spots where the powder coating wasn't done as well. Cause like on the frame, the powder coating is phenomenal. It's really good on there. But where a lot of the smaller edges, like right here and some of the welds up here, when I got it, they were already chipping. So a little bit of some cheap, I'm gonna say either it was just cheap coating that wasn't QC'd or it might have got chipped in shipping, but who knows. But overall, the coating on here is really good. It doesn't feel like it's just gonna be something that just peels off or anything like that. Now, as far as the range for doing chest supported rows on it, as I mentioned, this thing will accommodate for a lot of people. Now, as far as the height range, I don't know. There's nothing on there that specifies it. But what I will say is that if you are short, you definitely should have a pretty good, no problems getting it nice and low. Me being 5'10", I still have a lot of slack right here, so that way I can show you what it looks like. So I could probably pull this up and then still have a nice good range when I do those chest supported rows. So this definitely does have a nice, good, different type of range. And I really like that this particular part right here articulates. So that way it's not a lot of stress on your wrist, and it can also move with the movements to a certain degree. Now, why I went with this instead of Makolo, it's pretty obvious. And again, I'm not here to knock Makolo. I actually was on the verge of actually purchasing it. It was actually in the cart for a while. And I just kind of held off on it because I just didn't really feel the need for it, since I was doing linear style row movements on some lever arms. So it wasn't like a dire need. But I finally got to the point where I just kind of got tired of setting up and just wanted to have a solid piece of equipment to be able to do it all in one. So before I decided to purchase, I did go on Alibaba, excuse me, and just kind of looked around, and then I came across this, and it ticked the boxes off way much better than what Makolo did. Now, this particular model is more of a baseline model. I believe there's like 3 or 4 different style 2-in-1 linear row machines that they sell on Alibaba. And there's multiple manufacturers that have like numerous different kinds. There's some that are iso rows. They have double linear row bars. There's one that, the step up from this one, where the seat, the whole platform is able to slide forward and backwards. This one is just stationary, so just angles, goes up and down. But the other one, it had even more multiple changes on there. And there's another one that's a little bit more higher grade than these. Now, there's not a lot of companies in the US that sells these type of model of row machines. But I will give a shout out to CTX Home Gym, who now goes by Build a Gym. They do actually have one that's a much higher grade premium style model of this. It definitely costs way more than what I paid for it. But Build a Gym and Dylan, they're doing a lot of great stuff here in Central Texas. And I'll put their information in the description below, so that way if you are interested in them and see if you want to try to work with them on purchasing something like this, I'd be more than happy to provide their information. But as far as any other company, I'm not too much aware. I don't really look into who's selling this, and I don't know if anybody actually is, since this is a commercial gym type product. But for this off of Alibaba and the price that I paid for it, I mean, it was worth the money that I paid. So this particular machine, when I went through the company that I bought it from, the cost for it was $490. Yeah, so it's cheap. But if you watch my previous video and I talk about the DDPs and costs and everything of that, it shot this up to just under $1,200. So it still was phenomenally cheap if I would have bought it from a US company, because I cut out the middleman. But then of course you also have to pay extra. And since I'm buying a single product, the shipping fees cost a lot more for it. But it was absolutely worth it, and I don't regret it at all. It does take up quite a lot of space in my gym. It's definitely not a small, compact piece of equipment whatsoever. So let me go ahead and get those specs for you real quick. All right, so as far as the width on this, the machine is 68.7 feet wide, approximately 54.7 feet long, and roughly about 43.7 feet tall. So this is not a small piece of equipment. And because it was such a large piece of equipment, I did have to sell my leg press to make more room in here. So something had to go in to accommodate for this. And again, I have no regrets on that. Now, as far as how it came, it did come in a crate. And they told me that it was going to come in 11 pieces, which it absolutely did, because there's really no bolts to put on other than just the frames to connect the other frames. But everything is welded and you just slap it together. Now, the one thing that I will say, which was a mistake on my part, is you probably will want to have a helper get you to put this together. It's very heavy, and when I was putting the pieces together down there, because I didn't have it lined correctly and I didn't have any assistance, one of the bolts stripped when I was tightening it. I actually have two that stripped that I have to go replace, but because this thing is so robust, I haven't been in a like dire rush to go get them. I mean, they're in there tight, they just won't tighten up, but all the other bolts are in there nice and good. Another thing that I really hated though about this is that when you get it, because Alibaba, what they do is they'll put the product together, send you a picture, you approve it, and then they take it apart and then they ship it to you. So when they take it apart, they just basically throw all the bolts and everything in the bag and then say good luck. So there was no instructions at all as to what goes into what. And I will say there was only like maybe 10 bolts, maybe 12 total that I had to do. But because they were several that had different sizes as far as the length, there was no explanation of where they need to go. So I had to reach out to them. They did send me what bolt was supposed to go, but I had already figured it out because it was just one of those trial and error things, and this bolt was too long and this bolt was too short. And I ended up eventually getting it together. So just be prepared that Alibaba will not send you install instructions. Even when I got the Hyper, there was no instructions, but for that company, what they did is they put the bolts in the holes where they would need to go and just left it like that. So that was a lot easier to know what was what, where this one was just a bag of nuts and said good luck. All right, now as far as the packaging on this, they did an outstanding, phenomenal job, and I absolutely hated it. The reason because they wrapped this in a thick material cloth. And I mean, it was wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. I mean, they did a very good job until it was time to actually have to take it off, because it wasn't like bubble wrap or plastic where you can just cut it with a knife and just get it out the way. This was very hard to cut because the fabric was pretty thick. And the tape was on there extremely well. So it was one of those things where I had to unwrap it and unwrap it and unwrap it. And I mean, it was like this was wrapped and then this was wrapped and then the bottom was wrapped, and it just became a pain in the ass, honestly. But I can appreciate the quality of the wrapping of it, because it definitely protected extremely well when it came over here. And like I said, there was a couple of spots where the powder coated, maybe chipped during packaging or during shipping. But overall, this thing came over in really good piece. Now, another thing, as I said, is this is wobbly. And it has a lot of tolerance loose on there, or a lot of loose tolerance, but it's not a major factor on there for me as far as feeling like it's going to be durable, because it's extremely durable. And this is a commercial grade piece of equipment. So, you know, yes, there's a baseline model of this, but I mean, this thing is just an absolute tank. I mean, this thing probably weighs about a good 400 pounds, if not 5. It's not going to be moving around once you get it into your gym. Now, it does come with rubber covers for the foot plates at the bottom, but they're kind of trash because they don't have a lip to lock onto it. So you have to put this together and then lift it up and then put it in place. But the minute you make any kind of movement, it just falls right off. So I just decided to leave them off since I got rubber mats. But just keep that in mind that if you do decide to look into this, those rubber covers aren't very good, and they won't stay on if you decide to move this around. All right, so this is my second purchase from Alibaba. This is the 2-in-1 linear row. This thing is an absolute beautiful piece of equipment. I have zero regrets purchasing it from Alibaba. As I mentioned, this is about just under $1,200. I think it was like $1,190 or something like that. I'll put the price down there. So if this is something that you were interested in, I'll put the link of the company that I purchased this one from. But as I mentioned earlier, just keep in mind that these are manufacturers that make them, so you don't have to just go with this one. If you do a search on the image, it will show you other manufacturers and what their prices are. Another thing that I did with the company is that I did a down payment. So I basically just paid a percentage. They may offer you like 30% or 50%. And so I made those down payments, waited till it got completed, and then paid the rest of it out. So there's companies that will work with you. Like I said, there's some really good companies on Alibaba if you know what you're looking for. So just shop around and just see what you can find if you're interested. And also just keep in mind, as I mentioned previously, DDP prices always change. So what price you may get now may not be the same later on, because they do fluctuate as well as the sale prices. So and you can always shop around to look for competitive pricing for it. All right, so this is the Alibaba purchase number 2. It's the 2-in-1 linear row. This thing is an absolute monster. I love it. I think it will handle anybody's height range perfectly well, anywhere between, I would say, at least 5'4" to 6'3" or 4" maybe. I don't want to guess on that too hard because I don't have the actual specs, but because this thing just has so many different angle positions for this, you're going to feel very comfortable for it. And as I mentioned, it has a lot of ROM in it for the bottom, so you're not going to feel like you're getting cheated out of it. And you also have that platform to adjust as well to give you different angles. Now, one thing I did also forget to mention is that you can also do RDLs on these. So if you've ever done RDLs on any of the, like the Mikolo platform, you can also set yourself up to do that. So that way you can kind of get more options out of this than just the 2. And again, you get some really good range for those seated RDLs. So this is the Alibaba linear row that I got. I hope you enjoyed this video. I got one more to do for the TT Flex that will come out in the next couple of days, so definitely watch out for that. I've also been having a lot of people asking about that as well. This is a phenomenal piece of equipment, and it's very great. It did take about 4 months to get it, so just remember, if you are interested in buying anything from Alibaba, you're gonna have to wait, but if you didn't have it before, wait a couple more months to save you a couple of $100. This is Danny with DD Fitness, and I'll see you in the next video.